Bienvenidos. Continuamos con nuestro plan de conferencias. Tengo el gusto de presentar al señor ingeniero Jacques Peronet. Él es el coordinador del TC64 de IEC, es el Comité Técnico para Instalaciones Eléctricas. En este caso, nos hablará de la estructura de la norma internacional para seguridad de instalaciones eléctricas de baja tensión y su procedimiento de verificación. Es muy importante conocer que en base a los acuerdos que se tienen, todos nuestros estándares en principio deben basarse con normas internacionales y después pues, podrán que ser adecuadas a nuestro entorno, a nuestro ambiente y a nuestras necesidades como país y poderlas adoptar como estándares nacionales. Bienvenido a México, Jacques. Muchas gracias por tu participación. Ojalá podamos aprovechar toda tu experiencia y todo tu conocimiento en este tema. Gracias.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacques Peronet. I'm the chair of the TC64 IEC, which is in charge of the development of the IEC 60364, which is the low voltage electrical installation standard. Regarding the 60364, I will start with history. The first thing about electricity at the beginning was the problem of the fire. So insurance companies start to write the first rules in order to avoid the fire due to electricity. Then the government follows by publishing a law for avoiding electrocution. Regarding this date of this publication, the first date started in 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. It was in Europe, UK, Germany, and France, but also in USA. In 1897, it was the first edition of the NEC, the National Electrical Code. In 1967, was created the IEC TC64 with the task of a safety pilot in the field of the protection against electric shock. Regarding this IEC 60364, these standards have an adoption by international community. So it's a standard which is used worldwide, in Europe, in South America, in Southeast Asia. The main exception is mainly North America, including Mexico, and also some countries in Asia and in South America. This standard is based, as any IEC standard, on the consensus. And this is a result of the vote of the national members, which make the standard. This is something which is general because it's a catalog of dedicated rules regarding safety. And it's very flexible because there is no pre-established solution. So this is the main difference between the code that you used to have and this standard, which is really very flexible without no pre-established solution. This is a current system. So we have a current with the installation standard with the IEC product standard, and also no incompatibility with the product in accordance with other product standards. This document, it's also important. This is not the document which is usually used by the national country, but this is a guide to elaborate the national standards. And national committee use IEC 60364 for the elaboration or for updating their national installation rules. Some countries fully adopt the IEC 60364, where some other only either adopt the structure and therefore can easily update and adapt their standards. And some other use only some part of this standard. And the last point, which is important regarding this standard, it's a good way to promote the international trade because we are adopting a common base for all the electrical installation. The composition of IEC 60364 is a series of standards. So that means that we have some 37 documents in which 21 are corresponding to special location. All these documents are independent and complementary. We have 6 main parts. So the part 1, which is a fundamental principle, the part 4, which is a protection for safety, the part 5, which is selection and gradation of electrical equipment, the part 6, which is verification and test, the part 7, which is special location, the part 8, which is functionalities, and the part 4, 5, 7, and 8 are headings, which are made of several parts and sections. Regarding the different parts of the standards, we have the part 1, which is the fundamental principle. So this is where you have also the assessment of the general characteristic and the definition, which is not in this standard, but in what we call the IEV 826, which is available in electropedia.org on the website. And you have all this definition, which is used by TC64 in this IEV referencing 826. On the part 1, you will find the scope, mainly. You will find also a clause 133 regarding the compliance to product standards. We also define the different earthing system, and we have a clause which is also important for the separation of the circuit. Regarding the scope, we cover more or less all the electrical installation. So for all type of installation, it could be residential or commercial premises, industrial, agricultural, or public premises. It could be also prefabricated building, caravans, caravan sites, construction sites, exhibitions, fair or other temporary installation, and it could be also marina or pleasure craft. It applies to all circuits supplied at a nominal voltage up to and including 1000 volt AC or 1500 volt DC. So this is what we call the low voltage limits. It's applied to fixed wiring for telecommunication, signaling control, and the like, and to the extension or modification of the installation. It doesn't apply to system for distribution of energy to the public or transmission for such a system, which is covered by some other technical committee, and equipment apart for their selection and installation condition. Regarding the different earthing systems, so we define 3 different earthing systems. We have the TN system, which means that the source is earth and the earthing is in the distribution. Then we have subsystem, which is TNS for separate, TNC for combine, and TNCS for combine and then separated. This could be applied to AC or DC. We have TT system, where the earthing is at the source and the protective earthing is connecting at the installation. And this also applies to AC and DC system. And then we have the last system, which is IT system, which also apply to AC and DC. And on this example, we have only designed the AC, where the earthing at the source is isolated or is connecting to the very high impedance, and the earthing is also inside the installation. Then we have what we call the part 4. So the part 4 is everything for the protection for safety. On the part 4, we have 4 different parts applying for different protection that we want to cover. So the first part is a part 441, which is for the protection against electric shock. The part 442 deal with the protection against thermal effect, so burns, fire, and so on. The part 443 is for the protection against overcurrent, so overload and short circuit. And the part 444 is a protection against voltage disturbance and electromagnetic disturbance. In this part 4, we, as I explained to you, we cover the different type of protection. Regarding the electric shock, we are going to cover what we call basic protection, fall protection, and enhanced and additional protection. For protection against thermal effects, we are going to cover the fire and the burns. Overcurrent, we are going to protect overload and short circuits. And over voltage, we are going to cover the industrial and high frequencies. Regarding the safety, we are going to protect either person and livestock and or protection of property. So that means the electrical equipment and the building. So regarding the protection for the person, it will be covered by the part 441 and 442 regarding electric shock and thermal effects. And for the properties, we are going to use the part 442, 443, and 444 for the protection against thermal effects, overcurrent, and overvoltage. Regarding the protections for safety, which is the protection against electric shock, so this is the IEC 60364-4-41, we are going to describe in this document how to make the protective measure for the basic protection. So it could be made by basic insulation, so it's solid. It could be made by barriers from usual direction or enclosure for any direction, or it could be also done by obstacle or placing out of reach. In this case, we require that the installation is supervised by skilled people. We have then describing the protective measure for fall protection. So it could be done by automatic disconnection of the supply, or it could be done by double or reinforced protection, electrical separation, and safety extra low voltage or protective extra low voltage. And then the last measure that we could apply is what we call additional protection, to have a protection which is given in addition to basic and fall protection. Regarding the protection against overcurrent, this is the part 443. Protective device shall be provided to disconnect any overcurrent in a circuit conductor before such current could cause danger to the thermal or mechanical effect, detrimental to insulation, joint, termination, or materials surrounding the conductor. So this is usually made by overcurrent protective device, which is usually could be either circuit breaker or fuses. On this, we describe on the clause 434 the protection against overload, where we require to have the circuit protecting against this overload. Usually, it's less than 1.45 the rated current. And then on the clause 434, we are going to deal with the protection against short circuits. There we are going to consider also the duration, which is a key factor on this case. So this is more or less based on this curve that we are going to describe your protection and select the right OCPD, so overcurrent protective device, in order to cover the cable current carrying capacity and the max short circuit current that you have to apply. So this is what I would like to introduce for the part 4. Of course, we have also the chapter 42 and 44, which gives some additional requirements. Then when you have described the protection for safety, we are going to move to the part 5 of the standards, which is how to select and erect the electrical equipment. So on this part, we have different parts. The part 551, which is the common rules. So this is where you are going to describe which environment you are going to install your installation, the type of building, the maximum temperature, the humidity. All these parameters have to be described, and are described with a table that you could find in this part 51. We have the part 52, yes, regarding the wiring system. So this is where we are going to select the wiring, which could be cable, but also trunking and so on. So this is, everything is described. And you are going also to select, when you have the combination of different cable, how to install it correctly. And take into account the interaction between the different wiring systems. The part 53, which deals with the protection, isolation, switching, control, and monitoring. So this is really on this part where you are going to select all the devices you are going to install in your installation. Then you have a part 54, which is the earthing arrangement. So this part is key when you are going to use the protections against electric shock by automatic disconnection of supply. So it will describe how to make the earthing electrode and all the earthing arrangement to make sure that in case of any fault, you are going to carry the current through this earthing arrangement. In the part 55, we are going to describe how to install other equipment. So it could be lighting, it could be multi-source equipment, multi-supply, and auxiliary services. The chapter 56 is everything regarding safety services. So this is more or less all the service you have to deliver when you have an outage in the building and you need, for example, to evacuate. So you have to make sure that all the signs that you have and the way to evacuate are correctly fed during this lack of services in the building. And then there is a new chapter which is not published yet, but is going to be published normally beginning of next year. It's about stationary batteries. So in the selection in the part 55, you are going to have the correct selection of the device. So this is the part 53 and not 54, as mentioned in the slide. Sorry for the mistake. So this is where we are going to ask that the product you are going to select is compliant to an IEC standard in order to make sure that the behavior of this device is known and tested. So this is where you are going to select the device for fall protection by automatic disconnection of the supply. So it's OCPD or 30 milliamp RCDs. You are going to select the device and precaution for protection against thermal effects. So it could be 30 milliamp RCDs and or arc fault detection devices. You are going to select the devices for the protection against overcurrents, so OCPD. It could be the device for protection against transient overvoltage, like SPDs, the device for isolation, so isolator, the device for switching off, and or the device for monitoring. In the part 54, this is where we are going to describe the earthing arrangement and protective conductor. So in this part, we are going to deal with the earthing for protective purpose. So this is where we are going to describe the PE conductor in connection with the protection against overvoltage and the PE conductor in connection with the voltage reduction devices. This is where we are going also to require the earthing for functional purposes. We are going to describe the earthing for protection and functional purposes. We are going to describe, for example, the PEN conductor in case of TN system. We are also defining the minimum cross section, for example, 10 square millimeters of copper or equivalent. And this is also where we are going to describe the equipotential bonding conductor with a minimum cross section. So it could be half of the minimum cross section of the PE, and the cross section should be at least 6 square millimeter cross section, up to 25 square millimeter for the cable, which is up to this value. Then we have a part 6, which is the verification and test. So this is where we are going to describe the initial and periodic verification. I'm not going to do it right now, but later on, because I need, before moving to this part 6, to speak about two other parts. The next one is a part 8. So this is about functional aspect. So we have in this part all things which are linked with the functional aspect. So the first part is a part 8-1, dealing with energy efficiency. So this is where we are going to describe all the methods in order to implement the installation in the way to use the energy when it is needed. And we are going to give some guidance in order to reduce the losses in the installation. Then we have the part 8.2 regarding prosumer installation. So prosumer installation, it means that this installation which produce and consume the energy. So more and more you have, thanks to photovoltaic mainly, the fact that a lot of buildings now produce their own energy. Tomorrow probably also they are going to store this energy thanks to batteries. And on this standard, we describe how to install such installation in order to take benefits of the local supply, which could be mainly photovoltaics and the batteries, and the grid. And also, we are going to describe the facts, what we call islanding mode. This is in the case where you want to use your installation, where you have an outage of the network. And in this case, we need to make some precaution in order to make sure that all your protective devices are still in the right setting. And then we have a last part, which is 8-3, which is a technical specification for the first edition, which gives the operation of the prosumer installation and gives the way to connect to the interface of the smart grid, mainly on the communication, control, and measurement aspect. So in the part 8, yes, this is what I described regarding the energy efficiency. So in the energy efficiency, it is based on 3 main following principles. The first one is to minimize the energy losses in the electrical installation. The second one is to use the energy at the right time when needed and also at a lower cost. So this is something which is specific regarding electricity compared to other energy, that the price of the electricity vary depending the time, sometimes depending the period of the year. And it is very important when you implement your energy efficiency measure to take the benefit of the price of electricity in order to buy the electricity when it's a lower price, and that helps us to have a better return on investment on the measure you implement for energy efficiency. And the last thing, which is very important also for energy efficiency, because in your installation, the way you are going to operate your installation may vary. And therefore, it's very important to make sure that you maintain the performance. And if you do nothing, you will see that the efficiency of the building will not be at the top as it was defined at the first day. And this is why it's very, very important in this case to maintain the performance. And in this standard, we give some way to maintain the efficiency of your electrical installation. Of course, in any case, the safety shall not be impaired by implementing the energy efficiency measure. Regarding the maintenance performance, we have also an assessment process that I'm going to give some more detail in when we are going to speak about the verification. Then we have the last part of the IEC 60364, but where we have a lot of documents. It is what we call part 7. So this is special location. So to give you some example, it could be bathroom, swimming pool, it could be marina, camping, construction site, photovoltaic, medical location, the supply of electrical vehicle. So this is some parts which design some specific risks which have to be covered, which is not the risk that you find in other locations. So for example, for the bathroom, it is important that it's a wet environment, and therefore you need some additional precaution because you are in a wet environment, and therefore the electricity, the risk of electrical shock increase in such a location. For construction sites, we are going to make sure that you are going to mount and dismount very often your installation, and therefore we are going to increase the verification that you need to do before energizing your installation each time you make this new installation on a new construction site. Photovoltaic is very specific. Medical location also, you don't want to lose the energy when you are in operation theaters. So we have some way to describe how to make sure that you always deliver the energy to the operation theater, even in case of fault. And the supply of electrical vehicles also is another example of such part 7, thanks to the quantity of energy that you are going to provide to exchange each time, and the fact also that in some case you are going to use as external to the building, and therefore you are in the wet environment. So What is particular for the part 7, and you have to understand that they contain this particular requirement for special installation or location based on all the requirements of the general part, so part 1, 2, 6, and 8. And these parts are considered in conjunction with the requirement of the general part. So that means that this is not a standalone document, but these parts are requirements which supplement, modify, or replace the requirements which are in the general part 1 to 6 and part 8. This is very important to understand because sometimes these documents, this part 7 are few pages, but you are once again need to use it not as a standalone document, but really in conjunction with all the other parts of 60364. Certain of the requirements of the general part also is important. So you have the absence of the exclusion of the part or the clause of the general part means that needs to apply the corresponding clause of the general part. The clause numbering of the part 7 follow the part 10 of the corresponding reference in the IEC 60364. So everything is described how to understand the numbering of this part 7 and how to apply in conjunction of the other part. So this is all the list of the different part 7. You have a use list. Once again, they are not standalone documents and shall be used in conjunction with the other part. So if you have one slide to remember regarding the structure of IEC 60364 is this one, where you have the different parts, so 1, 4, 5, 6, and 8, which are the general parts, and the part 7, which is going to be used in conjunction of this part and could modify the different parts of the general part. So once again, remember this structure. If you have this figure, you will be able to really understand when you use one document where it is in the general structure of 60364. Now I'm going to move to the part 6, which is for the verification of the installation. On the part 6, we have two parts. One part is for the initial verification. This is mandatory for all the installation, and this part is based on inspection, testing, and reporting. So this is before energizing your installation, you are going to make this verification, which is called initial verification. Then we have a second type of verification, which is periodic verification. This one is recommended and is based on the frequency. So it could be frequency, for example, every 4 years, but it could be some other period. What is important, this verification has to be done without dismounting or with partial dismounting as required, because sometimes, for example, if you have a SPD in the installation, it's important to disconnect this SPD before making some insulation tests. But this is really a few cases where you have such a limitation, and it's based on the report. So verification is key for the safety and the proper functioning of the installation. Regarding initial verification, the principle of this initial verification are the following. It's has to be made before the installation being energized, and we are going to verify of the correct implementation of the requirement of IEC 60364. So this initial verification shall include a comparison of results with the relevant criteria to confirm that the requirements of the IEC 60364 series have been met. The verification shall be made by a skilled person competent in verification. And an extension, addition of, or alteration to an existing installation shall not impair the safety of that installation, and that the safety of the new installation is not impaired by the existing installation. Based on this principle, the inspection includes at least the checking of the following where relevant. So you have to check the method of protection against electric shock. So you remember it was described in the part 41. So it could be usually, in most of the case, automatic disconnection of supply, but it could be double or reinforced insulation, electrical separation, or using the safety of protective extra low voltage. You have to verify the presence of the fire barrier or other precaution against the propagation of fire and the protection against thermal effect. You have to check the correct selection of conductor for current carrying capacity. You have to verify the choice, the setting, the selectivity, and the coordination of the protecting and monitoring devices. The selection, location, and installation of the suitable overvoltage protective devices, SPDs, where relevant. You have also make the selection, location, and installation of suitable isolating and switching devices. The selection of equipment and protective measures appropriate to external influences and mechanical stresses. The identification of neutral and protective conductor. So in IEC, the protective conductor is a green and yellow, where in the neck, this is only green, but this is exactly the same principle. We have also the presence of the diagram, notice, wiring notice, and similar information. You have to make sure that the identification of circuits are correct. The overcurrent protective device switch terminal also are correctly identified. We have to verify the adequacy of termination and connection of the cable and conductor. The selection and installation of the earthing arrangement, protective conductor, and their connection. So this is key when you use the automatic disconnection of supply. You have also to verify the accessibility of equipment for convenience of operation, identification, and maintenance. Make the measure against electromagnetic disturbance. Verify that the exposed conductive parts are connecting to the earthing arrangements, and make the selection and direction of the wiring system. So this is at least all the checking that you have to fulfill when you make the initial verification. You have also to make some tests. As I mentioned, it's also very important to make sure that your earthing arrangements are correct and at the right value, in order to make sure that the measure you implement for automatic disconnection of supply, which is the protection of people, will operate correctly. So the continuity of the PE is key. So this PE is protective earthing. So we are going to do it with a current with 0.2 amps under a voltage between 4 and 24 volts. You have also to verify the insulation resistance between any pair of live conductor and between the live conductor and earth. So depending which voltage you use, if you are in a self or PELV, or you use voltage above 500 volts, you are going to make the tests with different voltage and verify the value of your resistance of insulation. You have also to check the polarity, which is for DC system, and the line conductor are correctly implemented, especially the neutral is correct especially in TN system is very important. And we are going to also to make some functional tests. Regarding also the automatic disconnection of supply, in TN system, you are going to verify the earth loop impedance, and you are going to verify of the control and operation of the protection. In TT, in this case, you are going to verify the resistivity measure of the earthing electrode and the verification of control and operation of the protection. In IT system, you are going to measure of the third fault current to make sure that it's not a current which is a hazard current. And you are going to make similar verification to TT system or TN system for the second fault current. The resistivity measure of the protective conductor also are key. You are going to verify. And you are going also to make an evaluation of the voltage drop by measurement or by calculation. And I remember also that voltage drop is a key element for energy efficiency in your installation, even if it's not only for safety, but also for energy efficiency. The last point, which is important in this standard we are going to describe is to make a report. And how to make this report, which type of documentation is going to include. So this is for the initial verification. So this is before energize. Now we have what we call the periodic verification. So your installation is running for a period of time. And then it's important also that during the lifetime of the installation, you make a periodic verification, which is an examination of the installation and the verification of the correct level of safety and functioning. So verification has to be carried out without dismounting or with partial dismounting as required, supplemented by appropriate tests and measurements. It has to be realized by your skilled people, and the frequency has to be adapted to the type of installation. Once again, in 60364, this periodic verification is not mandatory, not like initial verification, but we advise national committee to push to some periodic verification, depending, of course, of the type of the building. In a dwelling, this frequency will be much more longer than for a commercial building or a public building. And then also we describe in this standard how to make a report, what you have to include in the report, and how to fulfill this report. So this is what we have in part 6, but we have also in the part 8-1, which is dealing with energy efficiency. Another type of verification, which is based on an assessment method with some criteria. So this assessment method is based on the type of the building, either industrial, commercial, infrastructure, or residential, and it will assess the level of implementation of the energy efficiency measure for, once again, initial installation, energy management, the performance for maintaining the level of efficiency, the power monitoring, and it also gives some bonus if you have something which doesn't provide the or take benefits to the installation, but give benefits to the whole network and therefore contribute to use efficiently the electrical energy. So for each measure, some points are given on the level of implementation, and based on the type of the building and the sum of the points which is given by some table and the assessment method, you will have a level of efficiency which is going to be between 0 and 5, giving that EE0 is the lowest level of efficiency, and where today the level EE5 is the highest. Probably in the future we will increase some level, but for the time being, this is a level 5, which is the highest level for that. So this is what we today have for verification and test in the IEC 60364. To conclude, also what is important is to remind that the standard for sure is important to implement, but also give a lot of benefits. And just to introduce this type of benefits, so you remember the structure and the overview of the standards, with the general part and the part 7. So making the structure, it's also important that the structure corresponds to the implementation of an electrical installation. Is flexibility able to reach a compromise between countries? The country have to select the rules to be applied in the various parts, and the part 7 are not a standalone document and shall be used with part 1 to 6 and 8. So this is important because, for example, you could use the part 8 regarding energy efficiency as a part of your standard if you don't have this part in your already in your standard in your country. Also, when you're regarding the benefits, for example, of implementation, it's just to give you an example of in France, when we introduced first the equivalent of the IEC 60364, which is the NFC 1500, which is really equivalent of 60364. So in 1970, we have more or less 3.75 electric deaths by million of people. And implementing the different recommendation and requirement of 60364, and especially by pushing the 30 milliamp RCD for all the circuits, we reach nowadays 0.5 electrical deaths per million, taking into account that we have still a backlog of all installation which doesn't implement the latest version of 60364. But it's just to give you in figure the benefit of the standard, because sometimes people say, oh, you push the standard, but for what? And really, we have a figure in this country which started to implement it many years ago, the standards, and we reached to have some results by dividing by 8 the number of deaths regarding the electrical shock. So this is what I would like to introduce briefly for the electrical installation. I would like to thank you for listening, and I will be with you for your event to answer to all your questions that you have. This event, which is planned the 19th of October. So once again, thank you very much for listening for me. Muchas gracias para todos y hasta luego. Bye bye.